So hi, it's Dawn from Dawn's Dirt. Welcome to the episode today. I'm very excited for today's episode. I've got Mandy LeBlanc on my show today, and she is a women's health practitioner. And I met Mandy for the first time, 2 years ago, I think. She was a customer of mine at the farmer's market in the town she's in. So excited to have you here, Mandy. And can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Thank you so much for having me, Dawn. And I miss you at the market. So I
miss you too.
So I'm lucky I live in beautiful Banff, Alberta, in the mountains. So I am a women's health practitioner, a hormone nutritionist. Kind of get my start actually as I did get my start as a registered massage therapist. And I also incorporate a technique called EFT tapping into my work with women. So a little bit on the mindset part of things as well. But yeah, so basically women's health all over and kind of all demographics from tweens and teens right up to perimenopause and menopause.
I love that. And yeah, I absolutely miss you too. That's the hardest part of selling my farm actually, is missing my relationships that I built with my people. And that's, I miss you. I miss all the customers. So yeah, I'm really excited to have you here today. So I'm curious because I don't know what you said EFT tapping is. I've seen some of your online videos. So can you tell me, what is that? If you've never heard of it before, what is that?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I didn't think we'd really get into it, but it's so EFT tapping is known as it's emotional freedom techniques. Some people just know it as tapping, and it looks a little ridiculous. It is basically like you're tapping on your face, you're tapping on different parts of your face and body, and you're speaking out emotions at the same time. It is actually a really, really fast way to release any limiting beliefs, to shift your mindset, to be able to release emotions really in a safe and effective way. So you can kind of move on from that. So if there's anything that's holding you back. So I actually started, I was introduced to it a long, long time ago, and it didn't really resonate with me at the time. And then a few years ago, back I guess it was during COVID times, I was introduced to it again. And it was a different practitioner, different teacher, and it really helped me a lot. So I continued to use it for a few years and then decided that, this is a piece of my work that is missing with women, because often we could do all the things. I could tell them all the information, but sometimes it was that implementation or those mindset shifts that had to happen as well. So it's just a nice piece that I bring in now to help women be able to incorporate the more, more technical and more practical things that I'm telling them into their lives in an easier way, or to release, some of the extra baggage that they're holding, because we all have it.
Oh, hey, I'm not perfect. I'll be the first one to admit it. I've come a long ways, but okay. So I'm curious because, again, I'm fascinated by this. I'm curious. I used to struggle with anxiety and panic attacks. I don't know if you knew that part about me, but I would have stress so bad I would stutter and slur my words and have panic attacks and things like that. When things go so crazy in my life, that's what I would do. So could tapping potentially stop a panic attack? I'm just learning here. So curious about that.
Absolutely. It is actually I didn't know that about you, but it is one of the most effective ways to use it actually is for anxiety and stress, because tapping on, so the points that we're tapping on are actually, they are acupressure points. And even just tapping on those points alone will help to calm the central nervous system almost immediately. And it will reduce stress, anxiety within even just 20 minutes. I can't remember what the exact percentage is, but it's very significant. It's absolutely significant. So I find, it is absolutely an amazing tool to use for that type of condition, like for stress, anxiety. I actually teach it when I'm teaching my younger girls. I teach them that because it's something that they can take to the bathroom in school if they're having, if they're having stress or like anxiety or anything, something at school, they can go And I mean, adults can obviously do this too, but they can go hide in a stall in the bathroom and do a little bit of tapping, and it can help them immediately. So yeah, absolutely. It's an incredible tool for that.
Man, I love that. So practical. And who doesn't have a set of hands with them, at all times? Well, maybe some people don't, but like, yeah, I love that. And so in your practice, you are working with women primarily, and you're working with young women right up to older women. Can you tell us a little bit about that? You're working around menstruation, is that correct? Or maybe correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, a lot of the work I do is around, well, most all of the work I do really is around hormone health in general. But yeah, a lot of it is around periods, painful periods, you know, moving right up and then in through perimenopause, just irregular and I mean, they become irregular, but they just, all of the kind of symptoms that will come along with that and troubleshooting and really getting to the root cause of these things that are going on so that we're not just slapping Band-Aid solutions on. So the reason I work with those different aspects or demographics really is because I started out with horrible periods when I was a teen. I had really painful periods, debilitating, really. I would be curled up on the floor of my high school lobby. I would be throwing up from the pain. I would miss school. Just really, really abnormal pain during my period. And it was, we didn't really know what to do about it. I also struggled with acne as a teenager and, to the point that, again, I needed to go and have medication well, that's what I thought my only option was. But knowing what I know now, what we were doing was just kind of a Band-Aid that we were slapping on things. So going for that, hormonal contraceptives to help mitigate the symptoms, and then on to things like Accutane and stuff like that. Again, Band-Aid solutions, and actually things were allowed because they were just Band-Aid solutions, and it was basically shutting down that communication between my ovaries and my brain and shutting down the cycle. Things were able to proliferate, on beneath the surface and kind of continue to progress. It also affected my gut health a lot. So yeah, there was a lot going on beneath the surface. And I really believe that teaching girls to be in tune with their cycle and what's going on with their body from a really young age. So even from that tween time before they've even started their first periods, and especially into their teen years when, they might be experiencing some symptoms, knowing what they can do about it and what their options are is so important, because then, if they can address things at a root cause at that age, how much trouble is that going to save them as they get into their more like deep reproductive years, or like maybe wanting to have babies or not have babies, and then just be struggling with, PCOS or endometriosis, things that maybe didn't get addressed earlier on. And then, of course, moving up into that perimenopause transition. And, if we haven't addressed all these things ahead of time, then we're going to start to see a lot more of those symptoms that we're all scared about, right? And there's so much that we can do about it if we just, make a few simple shifts, really. And a lot of it can be quite simple. Sometimes we have to dive a little bit deeper depending on how long things have been going on for. So really kind of runs the gamut. I do work with moms and tweens for, I do like an empowered girl class, which is just basically teaching them kind of the basics of their cycle, healthier choices that they can make around whether it's period products, the foods that they're eating, just, general living, healthy living to support their cycles. And then, of course, in teens, it's usually more of a one-on-one. Sometimes I do some group workshops for teens as well. And then I do have, I do one-on-ones with all, like any age group within this kind of realm. And then moving up through the perimenopause, I have a group program for midlife as well, like 35 and up.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot. And yeah, I'm with you. I feel like a lot of times in our medical system, we are putting band-aids on things and we are not necessarily getting to the root problem. And so what you're saying that even with our hormones as women, even with our hormones and our periods and what's going on with our girl things, that there's things that you can do without medication to correct all of that. I'm fascinated by that. I know when I was young, I did have some pretty rough periods. I had very sporadic periods. I did. I don't know if too many people know about this about me, but I'll share it. I actually struggled to get pregnant the first time. So I got married at 22, and I didn't have my first baby till I think I was 26. So it took me 4 years to get pregnant that first time, and we were into the fertility clinic and doing all the things. And so what you're saying is you've got different techniques and methods and things that women and young girls can do to kind of get rid of the pimples. Really, that'd be even just amazing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much we can do, really, and it's unfortunately, living in the world that we live in, that we're exposed to so much. So we do have to do maybe a little bit more than maybe our grandparents had to do to be able to support our liver health and our gut health and all of these things that are a little bit more bombarded than they have been in the past. But there's still so much that we can do to support. So I do a lot of targeted nutrition work. So we're, incorporating specific foods. We may be eliminating certain foods for a period of time. I'm not a big proponent of taking out big major food groups and things like that. But sometimes there could be something that's causing some irritation depending on the state of the gut at that time. Really supporting the liver, whether that's through diet as well, through nutrition. But that could also be, taking into account what we're using on our bodies on a daily basis, what we're cleaning our homes with, what we're putting on our skin and our hair and our, what we're ingesting every day as far as different chemicals, different hormone disrupting chemicals. So cleaning up that a bit. And we do this all step by step. So, I'm not telling you to go in and do an overhaul of everything all at once, but, kind of just depending on what looks like it might be the biggest culprit for you at that time, we'll focus in on that. And then, of course, sometimes we bring in some targeted supplements as well. I'm a big believer in, a food first approach. And really bringing in that kind of, that whole foods aspect. And it's not about taking away a lot of, it's more like, what can we bring in that's going to really support the body? Stress is also a huge part of it, because stress will affect lots of different aspects of our health as well. It'll affect our blood sugar. It will affect our digestion. It's going to affect how our hormones are produced. In fact, if we're having a lot of stress, we're not actually even going to cycle properly, because it's going to shut down that connection, because our bodies are going to prioritize safety or that stress response over reproduction. And, whether you want to have a baby or not, that's not the question. It's going to shut down that reproductive process. So, which is absolutely that's an important mechanism, because if we back in the day, if we were in great danger, it's not time to reproduce, right? It's our bodies aren't feeling safe enough. So really it's just really giving our bodies what they need so they feel safe to do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. And so it's a whole approach, from your mental health to your physical health to your gut health to your all of it. It's a whole approach. I'd like to take it back to nutrition, because actually this is where we met, is around nutrition. So you were a customer of mine. I grew without pesticide on my farm, and you were a customer. And so we had conversations about the food that I grew, and you're a great customer of mine. And so let's talk about food and nutrition. Let's go back to that. And how does food fundamentally affect our overall picture, and then bring it back down to women and girls and hormones?
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, it affects everything really about our overall health, because it is, like I like to say, it's a chance 3 times a day, or however many times a day you're eating, it's what's building our bodies. So what we put in our body is what we're going to really get out of our body, as far as, how we feel, how our bodies are functioning. So yeah, absolutely. There's so many different routes we can go down as far as food and how it affects us. And really, it's let's see, how are we gonna go?
That's okay. We can pause for a second and you can think about it.
No, I just trying to wrap around my head of which direction I want to go first, because there's so much we could say. So really, yeah, I came to you as a customer because I am always looking to have the most nutrient dense food possible in my diet and in my household. And really, when we're eating, we're consuming calories, we're consuming that nutrition, that general nutrition. We want to get the most nutrients out of it as possible. And unfortunately, a lot of what we're buying, in the grocery store, things that are mass produced, things that are sprayed and not ripened properly, things like that, they're not containing the same amount of nutrients. Our soils can be quite depleted depending on, how things are mass farmed as well. So looking to get the most nutrient density as possible. So yeah, I'm always seeking out people like yourself who are growing things in a sustainable way, in a nutrient dense way, and not bringing in all of those pesticides and things like that are likely disrupting our hormones as well. So yeah, whether that's produce, like you are saying, or, the meat that we're getting. Yeah. So I think just nourishing our bodies as best as we can by giving them the most nutrient dense foods is going to give us the building blocks we need to create those hormones, to have that, proper stress response, to have, to not irritate our gut linings with all those chemicals, things like that. So a lot of what we do, like all of these different aspects, the gut, the liver, the stress, a lot of it is all the same kind of approach. It's not like we're approaching each thing completely differently. Like we have to fix this, and then we have to fix this, and we have to fix this. A lot of what we're doing is just, some simple tweaks it's really supporting every aspect and every system of the body. We just might have to hone in a little bit more specifically for certain things.
For sure. So when it comes to produce, because that's my world, I love all agriculture. I understand why farmers do what they do. But when it comes specifically to produce, I can tell you this: produce that is a week old, it's going to lose its nutrients. When you pick spinach or beans or anything, they lose their nutrients over time. And so that's where, when I had my farm, I was able to pick it and bring it right to the consumer within a very short time period. And that was really important to me. Whereas when we're buying produce from a grocery store, it is going from the farm to a packing house to a warehouse. It might be trucked. If we're getting it from the States or Mexico, it's being trucked for several days. And by the time it hits the grocery store shelf, and they rotate stock. They don't just, they don't just put the freshest stuff out. They rotate stock so it either rots or sells. And by the time you get it home into your fridge, that produce is if you're getting it from a grocery store, a lot of times, and I don't care which grocery store, at all grocery stores, that produce is old. And so the nutrient value on that produce has dropped significantly. And if you take it back to when we were 100 years ago, we ate seasonally. We ate, out of our garden. And so if you have fresh spinach that you pull out of your garden, or you buy spinach out of a grocery store, that spinach that you're pulling out of your garden and you're eating right away is way higher in nutrients and way higher in value to your body than the spinach from the grocery store. So that's just my little rant about fresh produce from farmers.
That is so important. And yeah, it's one of those things that I actually teach a lot about cyclical living for women, But that comes right back to our connection with nature. This is what I love teaching, especially when I'm teaching girls, because I love bringing it back to that, well, women as well, but that connection that we have to nature, especially as women, our cyclical, like those different aspects of our cycle, those different phases, all connect to a different season. So I actually will teach tools of how we can change what we're eating a little bit with those different phases of the cycle, but so important to incorporate that as well with, where we are seasonally in like, as far as our weather goes, wherever we are in the world. And yeah, having that more nutrient dense food when possible. I mean, it's really hard sometimes when you live in Canada in the winter, but, because we still want to have, we're used to having all like those fruits and vegetables and everything, but yeah, there's so many ways that we can kind of do that in different ways by more root vegetables, more like you said, like our grandparents, great grandparents did more. And they had stuff canned and that was, or frozen from, like if it was frozen from the peak versus, stuff that you're buying. Again, you buy that spinach that's wilted or that broccoli. Like I got some broccoli yesterday. I was like, I paid like $8 for this broccoli and it's not good. So yeah, it just makes.
Yeah. Well, and we're very fortunate here in Canada to be able, or in our world, to be able to get things off season too. Like I think that if you're making a food choice, I think the broccoli that you got yesterday is probably better than the box of Kraft dinner. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're still making a better choice. And so I guess that would be a question for me too, because it would be pretty tough if a client was just coming to you and let's say they were doing everything wrong, all the things wrong. What would you do with that? Would you give them a 100 item task list and say, you have to change all of this tomorrow or you're going to wreck your body? Or do you take off bite-sized pieces as a coach? How do you approach that with someone?
Yeah, absolutely. Bite-sized pieces, because it's too overwhelming and it's not sustainable to change everything all at once. And most people are just resistant to that, right? And it's not, just not something we can do. And I always tell people, sometimes people look at me or my account or things like that and they're like, wow, you do all this stuff. And it's like, yes, but I've been doing it for over 20 years and I've added things on bit by bit and I've incorporated things into my routine bit by bit. And now it's simple and something becomes second nature. And then I might add something else on if it feels like it resonates. And something might fall to the wayside if I feel like it's not working for me anymore. So no, absolutely. It has to be so sustainable. So if somebody was coming to me and they were doing, all the, like you said, wrong things. I mean, I never like to put it that way, but they had a lot of things that they needed to work on. I would probably start with some basic nutrition stuff. I think because often if we start feeding our bodies a little bit better, we're going to have more energy to bring in more of these different tips and different tools. If there was a lot of underlying stress or resistance, I might start by incorporating some tapping because that might just, allow the person to feel a little bit more open to it. But I would definitely be starting a little bit with some nutrition, nutrition and getting their body more on board. So that would often just look like for me, I'm a big proponent of a good nutrient dense, protein rich breakfast. So it's let's just see how you feel if you change your breakfast up, because that's going to help with your stress. It's going to help fuel your body properly for the first part of the day, which is going to lead into those next meals. Often if you have a good breakfast, you're going to make a better choice at lunch. You're going to make a better choice at dinner. You're not going to necessarily be craving those foods as much. Sometimes it takes a while to get there, craving those foods that, maybe aren't serving your body as well. So yeah, that's what I usually would start with is okay, let's just get you up a good nutrient dense breakfast within about an hour of waking up if you can. And that even can be a big stretch for some people, I usually say, I want you to get 30 to 40 grams of protein in the morning. Well, for some people, if they haven't been eating breakfast at all, that might feel that no way, there's no way I can do that. So it just might be starting with something small. Okay, well, let's just have you get like a boiled egg and a piece of toast in the morning or something like that. Like, start where you're at and then build from there. So yeah, absolutely. Like I'm always going to meet people where they're at, but yeah, I think breakfast would be usually the place that I would start with most women who are coming to me, because most of the time I'm seeing women coming and they're not, even if they think they're eating a healthy breakfast, it's usually pretty packed with sugar and refined carbs, and maybe they're drinking their coffee on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. And yeah, there's a lot that we can do even just by changing that.
um, I'm actually sitting here giggling because you just hit all of the things that I do bad. I don't eat breakfast. I never have liked breakfast. I don't want breakfast. I am so bad. Like if I have one bad habit, if I have one addiction, actually, it's my coffee in the morning. And yeah, I drink too much of it first thing in the morning, and I don't eat till about lunchtime. Like I haven't even ate yet today, and we're sitting at almost noon, and I've had 2 big coffees. So I'm just giggling because you picked the one thing that I am so bad at. I'm bad at lots of other things, but you picked the one thing that I'm really bad at. And so I'm just laughing at that.
Well, you're not alone, because so many women come to me and they say, well, I'm not hungry. I don't want breakfast. I don't. And I explain typically this is a cortisol dysregulation thing. If you're not feeling hungry in the morning, and I'm not saying that you have to wake up and feel starving. That's not necessarily, that could be a blood sugar dysregulation thing too. But if you wake up and then within that first hour or so, our bodies are designed to wake up and start seeking out food. So especially when we were living more like hunter-gatherer style, we would get up and we would start to forage or go hunt or whatever your role was in the community. You would be looking for that nourishment. So our bodies are designed for that. But then we've got things like we wake up and we turn our bright lights on and our cortisol is like, maybe we grab our phones, the cortisol's through the roof from the beginning. And yeah, we just don't feel like it. And then we go feed that with a cup of coffee and then spike. And then, yeah, we're not typically. And then by lunchtime, usually we're craving some pretty, like, usually we want like some pretty quick fuel by then. So we're looking for more of those like sugary carbs and things like that. And whereas, if and I'm not going to tell you to not drink your coffee because I love coffee. And I mean, there are people sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe we could try cutting it out for a while and see how you're feeling. But for that would not be the first thing I do with people, because I'd lose all my clients. But I usually say, try to get something in your like if you need to have that coffee first thing in the morning, what can we put in the coffee to add maybe a little bit of fat to it, add a little bit of protein in it. So it's going to blunt that a little bit, blunt that kind of cortisol spike. But I usually say, if you can, just get a little bit of food into you first. Like even if that's something small, but yeah, I like to say definitely. Yeah, you're not alone on that. There's a lot of resistance to breakfast sometimes. And then we're also fed so much information about intermittent fasting and how we all need to be doing that. And so many of those studies are done on men or postmenopausal women. And it's really, for the most part, I don't see it being beneficial for the cycling woman. And I'll back up on that a little bit. Like there are ways to incorporate some fasting, but I would call it more of a digestive rest than fasting, because a lot of fasting will signal stress responses in the body, and it's going to shut down our reproductive system.
Okay, and I'm finding that fascinating too, because with your coaching program, and with coaching programs in general, that's the thing. You hear all of this. You hear keto. You hear carnivore, you hear fasting, you hear eat your breakfast, you hear don't eat your breakfast, you hear vegan, you hear vegetarian, you hear all of the different things. And so I guess what it means when you hire a coach is you as a coach can help your client navigate what works best for their body, listening to their body. Or am I incorrect in that?
100%. No, that is absolutely it. So working with a coach will help you too, because there's so much information. Like you can go on and TikTok or Instagram or wherever, and it's so confusing because everybody is so set in their opinions and what they think is the gold standard. And yeah, it can be a lot. And I see women like grasping, like, well, I'm taking this herb. I'm taking, like, women will come to me and they have done a lot often. Like, it's most of the time women are coming to me and they're not like starting from scratch. They've tried, because they are investing to work with me. They've done a lot. They've, tried all the random supplements. They've tried different diets. They've tried different dietary techniques, maybe exercise regimens, things like that. They've done quite a few different things, and they're just not seeing the results. And often that can be from, sometimes it's just that they're, again, trying random supplements and herbs and things like that without really kind of knowing why they're doing it or what is actually going on in their body. It's just like this one. Funny enough, I was on the phone with a supplement company yesterday. They like to call and check in every now and then. And then this rep, I mean, bless her, she was lovely, but she's like, oh, well, she was a rep. She wasn't a practitioner. And she's like, oh, well, oh, you're working with women. You should get this supplement. And I was like, okay. But I, like, knowing what I know, I was like, for the demographic that I'm working with, no, like, this is not necessarily what we want to be doing in their body. Like, this is going to actually probably for some people, the supplement would be good. But for a lot of the women that I'm working with, this is actually going to put their bodies into more of an imbalance. So I'll often, like, things will, like, they'll talk about supplements like, like DIM or different things like that. And like women will start taking these things and they don't realize that they're probably putting their body into a more stressed state or a more imbalanced state. Or again, trying these different diets and things like that. Like if a woman has thyroid imbalances going on and she goes on a carnivore diet and she's not getting any carbohydrates, well, her thyroid is going to go, it's going to be like, so again, like, but yet sometimes if somebody needs to heal their gut, that might be a good approach to take for a little while. So like while their gut is repairing. So there's so many different things and it's all individual. And yeah, working with a practitioner will help you sort through what is best for you. And of course, I'm coming at it from a lens of the female physiology more so than men. Like I'll work with men too if they need any, like, if they have specific things they want to work on. But I typically work with women because I'm approaching things through that. This is what women's bodies need to feel safe and rested and supported, so that we're not, our hormones are coming back into balance. I mean, they're never really balanced completely, but either they're in a more balanced state or a state that we're feeling good. We're feeling like we have the energy we need. We're feeling like, our reproductive system is working as it should, based on what stage of life we're in.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to ask you a question, but we don't have to touch on it. But how does our modern day feminist movement and the way we're told as women, you have to go out and you have to conquer the world and you have to, be strong and you have to keep up with the men, and how does that play a role in what's going on with our bodies? Because I'm a big proponent of masculine and feminine. And for myself, I was in a very masculine type role or just the way I've been conducting myself for many, many years. And just in the last year, since I've stopped farming and stopped pushing and stopped grinding and stopped being so responsible for everything all the time, and my stress level has come way down, I feel like I'm able to get more into my feminine. I'm not sure about energy, but, like masculine and feminine. We've got men and women. So what's your thoughts on that, even with menstruation and women and, just the hunter-gatherer thing and the way we were created? Like, do you want to touch on that?
I do. I love this topic so much. Yeah. And it's funny. This is something I talk a lot about in the realm of perimenopause, but I really, again, I think it needs to start way back when girls are teens. So that kind of feminist movement, I mean, there have been a lot of good things about it too. I think like there have been some really great things that have come along with it. But the fact that, yeah, we feel we're at capacity. We're just adding more and more and more with every generation, where we have to be, we have to provide. We have to have a good career or business. We have to be the mom. We have to be in community. We have to have excellent friendships. We have to look good. We have and we have to, also be at home, looking after the home, be like, putting a good meal on the table. We really need to be and I mean, don't get me wrong, not every woman does all of these things, but there's a lot of pressure on us to do all of it. And we don't see men having to do, like, they're not, yes, men are changing their roles some too, maybe coming into the family a little bit more, but they're not feeling that pressure to do it all like we are. And if you look back to even like a couple of generations ago, women didn't really have a lot of perimenopause symptoms typically, not like we do now. It's because what happens, our adrenals are supposed to, I'm going to get a little bit sciencey here for a minute, but what happens is when we're little kids, our adrenal glands are producing the sex hormones that we need in our bodies. So we don't need a lot, like estrogen, progesterone, that kind of. So our adrenal glands and our brain are producing what we need. So when we start as women, we start into our reproductive years, the ovaries take over producing the abundance of that. And then the adrenals are supposed to get a little bit of a break. They're supposed to kind of get a bit of rest. But in the meantime, they're pumping out cortisol on a constant basis. They're pumping out those stress hormones constantly because we don't have a break. We're go all the time. And we don't. And what's really honored in our world is that go. It's not that rest. Like if you rest, you're lazy. And I feel a lot of this too. As a single mom, I feel like I've had a lot of that masculine in me too, because like I'm doing it all, right? And feeling now into like I am in perimenopause now. I am in that transition time. And okay, now I need to step back and like step away from that because that's not serving me anymore. And maybe it wasn't serving me then either, but it was survival, right? It was that survival kind of mode. It was what I felt like I had to do. So then coming into perimenopause when the adrenals are kind of handed back over the ball to take over producing what the ovaries are starting to slow down with. They're not producing as much the estrogen and progesterone anymore. Well, the adrenals are already pooched. Like they're still trying to produce their stress hormones, and they don't have the capacity to produce these sex hormones that like estrogen, progesterone that they should be taking over in that stage. So then we start showing up with all those symptoms. We start getting the hot flashes, the really heavy periods, and like just all of these symptoms that the brain fog, the fatigue. And some of that is normal as we transition, but it shouldn't be debilitating like a lot of women are experiencing. So yes, I think going back to if we can lean into that more. So women have this amazing cyclical rhythm that we have, like this 28-ish day cycle that we go through every month. If we can tune into listening to what our bodies need in those different phases a little bit better, like we need a little bit more rest during that premenstrual and menstrual phase. And that doesn't mean that we have to we don't live in a world that we can just not do our daily things that we need to do. But that might mean like, I'm going to bed a little bit earlier. I need extra help around the house. So you recruit your kids, or, maybe you get a friend to come over and help with something. It might mean I'm taking a bath with a cup of tea tonight because I had a busy day and I'm, it's I'm on my period right now. So I need extra rest. I need to replenish. It just there can be lots of little ways that we can incorporate living into our cycle a little bit more. And I think if we can learn that when we're younger, it makes it a lot easier on our bodies moving forward. But yes, this whole feeling safe to be in our feminine is really, really important. And I think, yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a whole sociological thing, like, this whole thing with society as well, right? Like having a healthy masculine presence helps that a lot too. But, we can still step into our feminine a little bit more without, even having that in our lives necessarily. I have men in my life that provide some of that, but I don't have a partner that provides that right now. So there are still other ways that we can step into our feminine without having to like completely back away from our day-to-day things that we need to do.
Yeah. I identify with that part so much because when I had my farm, I was married, and then I just picked up all the balls behind this man, and I don't want to throw him completely under the bus because he's not a super bad guy, but just, yeah, I picked up all the balls, and I ended up, the biggest thing was I bought him out of the farm, and I took on all of the responsibility. I was running the business. I had these little girls, my 3 children, and I was doing it all. And I think that's why my stress level went through the roof, is because I was just taking it all on. And I was taking on more and more of the masculine and just losing my feminine. Yeah. And so just finding it back in this last year, and it's been really good. It's been really restful, and I don't even know what to do with it sometimes, just taking a break and taking a rest and just being a girl again. And so, yeah, it's been different for me.
Oh, I love that.
Okay.
I love that so much for you. I think that's so, it's so important. Yeah. And I think, I just actually sent out an email, like a newsletter yesterday, I think it went out this morning. And that was something, it was kind of like mitigating all the holiday stress and whatnot. And so many of us feel like if we're not at capacity all the time or pushing ourselves beyond capacity, we feel like we're not doing enough. And that's not how we're meant to live our lives. Like, regardless if you're a man or a woman, we're not really meant to be like that, right? And it's so normalized that we feel like if we're not stressed out, and like if I haven't been on my feet all day checking things off the boxes, like checking all the boxes off, then I didn't accomplish what I was supposed to, what I needed to accomplish. So that was a failure. So I think, stepping away from that and slowing down. So beautiful for our nervous systems.
If you're able to. So maybe I want to talk about some politics here for a second, but like, if you're able to, so if you're a single mom and you're taking it all on and you're working at a grocery store, you're working at whatever job you can, you're hardly making ends meet right now. Like, it is so hard, and life is so expensive here in Canada right now. Like, and so some people are having to take on 2 jobs and 3 jobs. And this is men and women. And so we're just pushing and pushing and pushing. And at what point are our bodies going to just give out from this push? I don't know. Maybe it's a little off topic, but that's what we're doing with ourselves right now, is we're pushing and pushing. In the month of September, I was working 2 jobs. And when I had my farm, 2 jobs was easy, actually. When I had my farm, I was working during the summer 7 days a week. And between some of the days, like 14, 15-hour days, it was crazy. It was crazy how hard I pushed myself. So it's no wonder I'm just kind of crashing, and, I don't even know what to do with myself half the time right now.
Yes. It's definitely, there's a lot. I mean, politically, there's a lot we could talk about. The reasons why people are having to work 2 jobs, things like that. I mean, I know I lost 2 full-time massage therapy positions because of political measures, things like that. As a single mom, that was incredibly scary. And, there was a lot of recovery that had to happen from that. but in so many ways, recovering my adrenals from the stress of it, recovering my finances from debt, things like that. So yeah, there was a lot that went along with that. And then even now, now we see obviously cost of living is exponential. And people are having a really hard time to be able to make those ends meet and to make those choices, maybe those healthier choices that they want to make. There are so many ways that we can make better choices for our bodies and health without having to spend a lot of money. And I do help people with that as well. Sometimes I do usually touch on that in my programs, because for most people, we're looking to, I have some people who come work with me that budget is not an issue, but most people, it's not, even if it's not a huge issue, it is in front of mind. Like, it's something that they're thinking about. So I do offer people a lot of tools, like, how can you set your kitchen up? How can you make the best nutritional choices possible with the resources you have to work with? So yeah, not everything is like going out and buying all the superfoods. And I gotta love those things sometimes too, but there's so many, those are like the extras. They're like, things that we can add on later on maybe, but it's not the basics. But yeah, just bringing that back to, that stress, that working. Yeah. How can we take care of ourselves? Because a lot of people are like, they don't have time to sit down and have a meal because they're rushing from one job to another, or, then it's like, okay, how can I set myself up? How can I bring, when I do have a day off, what can I do to prepare ahead so that I can make things easier for myself? Because I know I have a big workload. I know I'm going to be busy. I know I'm going to be, between these couple jobs and running my kids here and there and all of this, so, okay, what can we do when we have the chance to do it, to set ourselves up, to make life easier, to make life flow a little bit better? I don't know if that touched on your question.
No, it totally does. And actually it brings something else up for me. It ties back into my coaching program, actually, because a package of seed costs a couple of dollars, whereas what you can get out of it is lots of money. So eventually you can change your grocery budget by growing your own, if you're able to. And so it's all about choices. That's what I'm hearing is the choices that you make, and just changing the little things that you can and making the choices you can to make it doable. And so I think that's where it's at, is just making the little choices, and affordability on produce and is big. And so if you're able to grow some of your own in your space, whatever you're able to do with the space you have, then you're able to take those dollars and put it somewhere else, into maybe a supplement, or maybe, a cut of beef, or whatever you need. And so it's just about making choices and shifting your perspective and shifting your choices to, bring it full circle to more of a balance for yourself.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So something, for instance, something I'm usually telling or prescribing women to eat a lot more cruciferous vegetables. So like the broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, all of those things. Well, I know I have a delivery that comes to my house, and we eat a lot of broccoli. Like, my daughter loves it, thankfully, and I love it. And we just incorporate it a lot into our meals. And I had ordered 2 things of broccoli. Well, the broccoli was like $8 a piece. So for some people that would be really cost prohibitive. And like for us, that lasts a week. That was like $16 worth of broccoli. So yeah, for some people that would be a big part of their grocery budget. So something that I tell women a lot is broccoli sprouts, broccoli sprouts are actually one of the highest in those beneficial compounds that are going to benefit our liver, our hormones, things like that. So you can buy a package of broccoli seeds and sprout them in a jar at home. Like, you don't even have to have any special equipment. I have a mason jar. You can have a piece of cheesecloth, or like, you can get a little screen too, and put it on your dish rack and like tip it over every day, rinse it out, tip it over. And within days, you have a great big thing of broccoli sprouts. Well, that could be your fresh vegetables this time of year. You just add it to whatever you're eating. So yeah, that's something super simple you could do. It really takes very little time out of your day. Like, you rinse them once a day or a couple times a day. So I will tell people to do that. And then often people as well, like I think I'm a proponent of eating animal proteins. I think that they're the most easy to absorb form for most people. And I think that eating quality animal protein is great. But that again, if you're going to the grocery store or the health food store, every time you need a pound of ground beef or, a steak or whatever you're eating, that's going to add up really quickly. Something that I did, it was a fairly big investment at the time, but I bought, and I mean, I live in a small place in Banff. I just have an apartment-sized freezer. So I bought, I think it was an eighth of a beef. And it's just it's just myself and my daughter at home. And we like other types of meat too. So I was like, okay, well, this will be our beef. And that saved me so much money in the long run. Like, even though it was a bit of an investment up front, it saved me so much because I wasn't going to the grocery store on a regular basis. I wasn't, and then, what it's like every time you go to the grocery store, you end up with like 5 more things in your cart than you actually went for. I could just pull things out of my freezer, and it was super good. Like, it was amazing quality, regenerative, grass-fed, all of that. And again, I had my freezer stocked with that. So that was my beef. That was my beef for the entire winter. So that was, it saved me so much in the end, even though it, like, again, it was like, I was like, oh, this is a lot, because like it was a little bit more of an expensive, I probably could have got it other places cheaper. And I mean, I'm learning more. The more farmers I get to know, the more places I learn to shop, I get to pass that on to my clients as well. And of course, not everybody's local to me, but I can pass it on where I learn. So I think, and that might mean you have to save up to do that big order. Or maybe you're splitting it with somebody. But in the long run, there are ways that we can do things.
Yeah, it's about making different choices. And that's the thing. And it comes back to, we keep hearing this thing, choices through our entire podcast here, making the little choices. And with your food and doing something like you did, buying the beef from a farmer, which I am a huge proponent of, buy straight from the farmer, cut out the middle guys, cut out the grocery stores. That's how we're going to save our farming industry, actually, to be brutally honest with you. That's amazing. And you've got food in your freezer, and that's so perfect. So, how does your work tie into the idea of sovereignty and taking ownership of one's health?
Well, again, if I even relate it back to my story, like growing up, and like, again, this is why I'm so passionate about empowering women. I actually, when I was 14, 15 years old and going through all of these things, I was interested in holistic approaches, but I didn't have the internet. I had, we had the library. I was lucky that I had a friend, one of my really good friends' mom ran the little health food store in my town. So I did have some exposure, but again, 14, 15 years old, you're flipping through a book and you're trying to decipher this information, and you're really not given the options. And I would try some things, but I didn't know how to incorporate it. I just didn't have the knowledge. Wasn't trying things long enough. Really that was taken away when I walked into the doctor's office, walked out with a prescription for the birth control pill, which shut down my reproductive system, affected my mood, my my digestive system. And I'm not saying that like nobody should ever go on that pill. I think there are times that, maybe it is appropriate. But at least if you know what is it doing to your body, like what girls and women should know what this is doing to their bodies. Just as like, going through perimenopause or menopause and being informed, like, okay, everybody's saying you go take a HRT or hormone replacement therapy. Okay, what can I do to support my body otherwise? Is this going to be beneficial for me? Is this the right choice for me? And what are some of the repercussions that might happen in my body because of it? Again, if you're, no matter what stage you're in, just that sovereignty, knowing that you have choices and knowing that that you get to be informed in the choices that you do make. So whether that's you decide to go take whatever medication or like that's your choice, but you should know how that's affecting your body in the long run and presently, so that you can do so if it is a girl who decides to go on the birth control pill to help because she's got super painful periods, well, it's going to deplete this and this and this and this. It could cause these side effects. So this is what you could do to support your body in the meantime, maybe while we work on some of these root causes at the same time. And I truly believe, I guess, a big part of it too is, I know that so many women were not given this information from a young age. So I want to support those women who are currently dealing with the repercussions of not knowing these things. But again, informing those girls, because they are the next generation of moms, of people who are going to be running the households, and then them empowering them in their bodies at this point is going to help them make more sovereign choices, more informed choices, more empowered choices for themselves and their families going forward. And it's just going to have a ripple effect down from generation to generation.
I love that. And we are seeing a shift. I feel like we're seeing a shift in society to, my body, my choice. And it's the information and getting the correct information. I know I went on the birth control pill just before I got married. And I went crazy. I honestly went super crazy. I was a completely different human being, and I got off of it as soon as I possibly could because it just made me psycho. And so had I known that, I maybe would have made a different choice. And so it's getting the education, doing the research on whatever choice you are making for your body. And I love the freedom of choice. Choice is important. And so, yeah, I think it's important on all spectrums, and for true freedom and true freedom to make your choices is to have all of the options, right? And so, yeah, we've talked a lot about choices in this episode. And any final thoughts just as we wrap up here on choices and on bodies and on nutrition and all the things that we've talked about?
Oh boy. Yeah. I feel like we did touch a lot on choice and, and just, I guess, just inform yourself as much as possible. And again, I know it can be confusing because there's so much information out there, but whether that's working with somebody like a coach or, not everybody can do that, but there are so many free resources out there too. Even you can come into my DMs and ask me questions. I'm not going to not help you out if there's something I can do to help you. Of course, I can't give you specific advice to you that, without fully in a good health history and things like that. But there's a lot available to you, and you can, it's just making those small incremental choices day by day that are going to support your body, support your best life, your best health. Just taking in all those little choices into account every day. And those small little choices add up to so much over time. So if you feel overwhelmed by it, just know that every little choice, every time that you choose something better for your body or choose something better you choose a little bit of rest or whatever that is, you are doing something that's going to add up. Those small things are going to add up to substantial changes for you and your health.
Yep. I love it. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. Really appreciate it. I have always appreciated you as a customer, as a person, as a friend. And yeah, thank you for spending some time with me today. So,
Oh, thank you so
appreciate it.
much, Dawn. I really, really appreciate you having me on. It's been such a fun conversation. And yeah, I think we could talk for hours, but thank you so much for having me.
I believe that too. We could talk for hours. So maybe we'll have to do it again sometime. Who knows? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.